Mississippi, and I love visiting schools that have a completely different set of animals because that means that we can compare and contrast and talk a little bit about all of these differences in these animals. And so I'm really, really excited to get started. And I'm going to share my screen for parts of it and pop back over for parts of it so that we can have fun, see each other every so often, but also learn a lot of information. So I'm going to get started by doing some of everyone's favorite part of learning, definitions. This is the best part of learning, right? Is learning the definitions of things. I'm just kidding. Everybody knows that definitions aren't super fun to learn, but it's really important that we learn them. So I'm going to go over the definitions of these words before we dive into some examples of the words, which is the actual fun part. So, native, what does it mean to be a native species? These are the species that belong where you live, and even if you may never see them, you don't know their names, you never looked at them close enough before to really recognize them. These are, if you walked outside right now, you could probably see the evidence or actual examples of at least 10 native species around you. They're everywhere, they're all over the place. And it's really, really hard to narrow down this group, right? Because there's so many examples, especially here where we have lots and lots of biodiversity in the southeastern part of the United States. So I'm just going to give you some of my favorite examples of native species, and then we will share. We're going to do like a little activity to see if we have any overlapping species or if you guys can identify some of the ones that live where I live. And then we are going to go to endangered species. And these are the ones that need our help to survive, or they could be lost for forever. And so it's really important that we try to help every single animal and plant on the planet survive, especially when there's so much happening. There's so many people moving around and using up all of their space. The planet is changing. So there's a lot of things happening that we need to try to help save as much as we can. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that work because it sounds really easy. We just help them. But the work that goes into helping endangered species is really, really hard and long and rewarding. And then last, I'm going to talk about invasives. And these are the alien invaders that don't belong where you live and are bad for the ones that do. And so we're going to talk about two really, really famous examples of invasive species where I live. And it'll be fun. We'll talk about those when we get to them. But let's get started with some examples. So the native species, we have so many different ones here, and I was really overwhelmed with trying to come up with categories to talk to you guys about native animals and plants. And so I just decided I would show you my favorite native species first. So my favorite category of native species are turtles. I think that turtles are so cool, and we have lots and lots of different kinds of turtles where I live.
And also,
yeah,
turtles have a very hard shell. There's actually this boss turtle that can actually cover its whole entire body. There's only one type of species, and it's a boss turtle that can actually cover the entrance to each part. All
that is crazy.
turtles can't do that.
Eric, remember, we're not going to interrupt, though, okay, bud?
I like saying things, though. I kept trying to raise my hand and say one thing.
I'm sorry. We will have plenty of time at the end to answer questions and say all the things you loved about the program, because I love hearing what you guys think. That's like my favorite part of doing these programs. And so I really want to try to get through my parts as quick as I can so that we can talk at the end for sure. But I have some fun facts about the turtles on the screen right now. So over here on the right-hand side of the page, I'm sure that all of you are just amazed at this turtle. This is an alligator snapping turtle. And alligator snapping turtles live in the water here, which is terrifying. They could be anywhere underneath the water. There's lots of them that live in ponds, lakes, and rivers. And they are all this researcher that's holding up this turtle is studying to decide whether or not they should be listed as endangered, because they have a lot of problems with different things that I'll talk about in a second. But the cool thing about alligator snapping turtles is they hold their mouths open like that in underneath the water. When they're just hanging out at the bottom of the water, they have their mouth open. And if you look really closely, you can see their tongue is shaped like a worm. It's a wormy tongue, and they can wiggle it around to try to lure animals like fish closer and closer to their mouths because they want to eat the worm. Well, if they get close enough, they can snap and eat them, and it makes an easy meal for the alligator snapping turtle. Which I think, but it's really interesting to learn that even alligator snapping turtles, all turtles, mostly eat plants. I did not know that, and I thought that that was very neat to learn about alligator snapping turtles. But we have lots of other kinds of turtles as well. We have sliders. They're a group of turtle here. But went too far. Box turtles are a type of turtle here. There are lots of different kinds of sliders and box turtles, and they have lots of cool patterns on their shells, and they like to live in freshwater environments, just like the alligator snapping turtle. And so we have lots of freshwater environments where I work because I work on a waterway. So there is 234 miles of waterway where I work. Plenty of room for turtles to live. So I see them all the time, and I love learning about turtles, talking about turtles, and sharing how cool they are with other people. And I think that you like them too from the excitement that I heard earlier. So I hope that you've liked this page. But I wanted to move into the next native example. This is the most common way that people where I live interact with animals is through hunting and fishing. So hunting and fishing play really important roles in the ecosystem because a lot of these animals don't have natural predators anymore. We used to have wolves a long time ago, which I think is amazing that a long time ago we had wolves that lived where I live, but unfortunately they're gone now. So the populations of these species can keep growing and growing and growing because there's nothing there to eat them. And that can be bad for them as a whole. If there are too many deer and not enough grass for the deer to eat, they all suffer. So it's really important that we have hunting as a way to keep the population numbers in check. And it's my job as a park ranger to make sure that people who hunt do it responsibly, don't overharvest, have all of their permits, use the correct weapons, and hunt in the right season. And so if anybody breaks those rules, it's my job to go get them and write them a ticket. But a lot of people here like to hunt for deer and turkeys, and I wish I had a picture of it in here, but we have catfish in the river here that are the size of like 5-year-olds. So that's impressive to me as well, that you can get just a fish that is like so big out of the river. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about with native species is plants, because I hadn't given any examples about plants. And Mississippi is known for the trees that we have here. Our state tree and flower is the magnolia. And I could have talked about that, but everybody's pretty common and knows that magnolias are around here. Maybe you guys are too young to know that, but you'll know that Mississippi is famous for magnolias. So I wanted to talk about what we do at the Tenn-Tom Waterway to help native bugs like butterflies and bees. We plant pollinator gardens that have native wildflowers that bloom in them. And this is, I wanted to show you guys a picture of a real wildlife biologist. He's a native animal here. He's in his natural habitat, his pollinator garden that he helped grow. This is wildlife biologist Tim. He planted all of these flowers, and these flowers are so important because butterflies, bees, grasshoppers, bugs, they are a part of the ecosystem as well, and they need the plants that they need to eat and pollinate to be able to be happy and healthy as well. And this is our state wildflower, by the way. This is Coreopsis, which I think is very neat. But when I thought about butterflies with these flowers and how they migrate through the area, I also remembered we have birds that migrate through the area. So I wanted to tell you guys about them as well. Wood ducks are an example of a native species that migrates through where I live. And when they stop here, they lay their eggs and have their babies, which is really, really special that they choose to have them here. And unfortunately, when they made the Tenn-Tom Waterway, They cut down all of the trees that the birds need to roost in. They are cavity nesters, which means that they like to have big holes in trees to lay their to build their nests in and lay their eggs in, and they raise their babies in the holes of trees. But all of those trees are gone. So it's really important that we supplement and make up for that loss by putting out boxes. So we make special bird boxes, kind of similar to the ones that you can make with your adult and put in your backyard for birds, but they have a bigger hole and they're a little bit taller for the wood duck to be able to get in and out of, because they are a huge bird. So we have over 3,000 of these boxes along the Tenn-Tom Waterway to try to help the wood ducks have plenty of room to be able to lay their eggs and have lots of babies, which is so exciting. So those are just a handful of examples of native animals, and I have a couple of more. So I'm excited to, oh, I got to turn that off. There we go. I'm not sharing my screen anymore, right? Awesome. Okay, so I have a couple more examples of some native species, and this is where you guys get to interact. So I'm going to hold up a clue, and you guys have to guess what the animal is. Would you like to call on people to guess, or would you rather they just all unmute and guess?
We'll try all unmuting and see how it goes. They just might be much more excited than they are with me. So.
Okay. My smelly spray is well known.
Skunk.
Bear.
Yeah, it's a skunk. Good job. I heard it.
I heard
Awesome.
like the first part now.
So cool. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. I didn't organize my box before I came to your class, so this is on me. Here it is.
Oh, we would have worked well. I never organized either.
So I have a
real skunk.
It is. It's a real skunk.
A skunk has like a stinky fart. More
They
stinky
do.
than my
They have
cat.
a smelly.
All right.
They have a smelly spray that they spray.
They can spray.
You
It's
animal
It
killer.
says Democracy Party. Like,
You
on
did
Jamaican,
kill the
and-
animals.
Yeah.
For giant. They had a long, happy life before they died, which is important to say. But if you feel sad that you see the dead animals, that just means that you care about them living in the wild. So that you should not want to see them in the box. You should want to see them in the wild. Okay, so I have another one, another clue.
Raccoon.
Yeah. This is my favorite. I love raccoons. They are so cute. And my fun fact about raccoons is that their hands are extremely sensitive. They can, when they pick up food, they like move it around in their hands to learn more about it before they eat it. And their hands can become even more sensitive in water. So they will dunk their food in water and move it around and identify more about it before they eat it. And I think that that is extremely cute that raccoons do
Also
that.
very sneaky.
They are very sneaky.
They're
At
also
least they
like
like
bandits.
At least
They do look like little
bandits.
bandits.
With the
Okay, this one's kind of tricky. This one's kind of tricky. Here we go.
Bird?
No. Good guess.
awesome.
Bear? I forgot.
Did somebody say possum?
Me. Awesome.
Yeah,
I think possums are awesome.
I was like, wait, what was that animal?
By the way, can you stop muting me because then it just annoys me.
I have
Okay.
to there because we can't keep interrupting when she's going. Okay, bud?
I know I want to use something now and I'm muted. Like what?
Okay, so my fun facts about possums. Let me grab my possum really fast. My fun facts about possums are these are North America's only marsupial, which is kind of like a kangaroo. So they have a pouch on their belly that they can help raise their babies in until they're big enough to get out of the pouch. And then when they emerge from the pouch, they will ride around on the mom's back which is very cute. And they use their tails to hang on to their mom. But they play dead when they're afraid of being attacked so that they don't look as tasty.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay, I'm only going to do one more and then we'll do this again in between endangered and invasive. Okay? So this is the last one for this round. You guys are doing great so far. You've gotten them all so far. So last one. I am nature's engineer because I love to build.
Beaver.
Yeah.
Beaver. Beaver.
Yes, awesome. You guys are so smart.
Wait.
Yeah, beavers
So
can
this
build like homes and actually keep the river in balance. If they weren't real, the river would be out of balance right now.
All right.
Exactly. So they will cut down whole trees just to get the branches off of it. And then they use the branches to create structures that make the area around them a really good place for them to live and for all of their friends to live in.
They
Which is
also
very
use
cool.
they use mud as glue.
They do use mud as glue. And then they use their tails to like pat it all down, which is so cool. I wish I had a tail of a beaver to show you guys, but I don't. And they are rats. They're rodents, which is so crazy to me. And their teeth never stop growing, so they have to chew like bark and wood to keep their teeth short. That's a weird problem to have, right? To have to cut your teeth. Okay, so that was really fun. That worked really well. I'm going to save the rest of them for after the endangered species. So there's 5 left for us to do after endangered. So I'm going to pop back over to my PowerPoint and talk about all of the work that we have to do to help endangered species. And you guys already can guess what kind of animal it is. It's a turtle, of course, my favorite type of animal that I'm going to tell you guys about. So this is a gopher
But
tortoise.
there's gonna be a tiger in it.
This is a gopher tortoise. Gopher tortoises are so cool. They dig big tunnels under the ground for their home. It's called a burrow, and this burrow is really, really important. It's their home, but also they provide habitat for 360 different animals, which is wild to me that 360 different animals can use these burrows that the gopher tortoises make. And one of those animals is a gopher frog. So that's this little frog over here on the right-hand side of the page. But you guys, really sad news. Gopher frogs are critically endangered. And at one point, there were less than 200 of them left in the wild. Gopher tortoises are threatened and endangered in different places. And in Mississippi, they're endangered because they're almost gone here. We need to try to help them have the habitat that they need in Mississippi so that we don't lose them here because they're tied to so many things in their ecosystems. But what does that look like? What does it look like to try to help give back the habitat that they need to survive? It is a little wild, so hang with me. We set the forest on fire on purpose, which sounds very wild because there are literal like forest fires burning up lots of things all over the country right now, which is scary and sad and awful, and we don't want that to happen. But we use fire as a tool to help make the forest better here. It's easier for us to do here because we have a lot more rain, and we can do this in safe times of the year where it's very effective as a tool to use. And it's called a controlled burn. So we control almost all of the aspects of the burn itself. We make sure that the fire stays contained to the area we want to burn, and that area is not very small. Day to day, you could burn different spots, but each day you are going to set the fire and put it out in the same day for that little area. It's my job at Prescribed Burns or Controlled Burns to walk around the perimeter of the area and make sure that the fire doesn't escape and put out any fires that try to start in other areas. We also control the temperature of the fire. And that sounds kind of weird. You would just think that fire would just be hot, but different plants burn at different temperatures depending on what they're made out of. And there are some plants that have lots and lots of glass particles in their cells, and that can make them burn really, really hot. So we go in before the burn and remove all of those plants as best as we can so that the fire temperature stays lower and it doesn't hurt the adult trees, because it's very important that we keep those adult trees to provide lots of shade for our area for the turtles, but also to enrich the environment because they're a part of the ecosystem as well, and we don't want them to be gone. So we can all see the benefits of this over on the right-hand side of the page. This is what the forest looks like before. You may just think it looks fine. It looks like the woods, but if you tried to walk through it, I have tried to walk through the woods that looks like this before, and you basically just have to like fall over and then stand up and fall over again and stand up. It's really hard to walk through. And so imagine what it's like for a turtle. It has to be impossible for a turtle to move in this environment. So this is what the forest will look like right after a burn. It's so much clearer, first off, but it's also really crispy looking, right? It looks a little burnt. But I want to point out a couple of things about this picture. The adult trees are still standing, very important. And then look right here, that is a log on the ground. How many times have you had a campfire or made a fire in a fireplace and seen any logs left over? It's usually not like that at all. So that means that this fire came through, wasn't very hot, and was put out really quickly. And that's evidence of it right there. So that's exactly what we want to have happen. And then in a couple of weeks, this is what the forest will look like. It's so clear. There's lots of plants that grow that can't grow without fire. This is an example of one of those plants. They need fire to be able to break open their seeds and germinate. And this is amazing. It's like a celebration in the forest because it doesn't just happen every day. It probably happens only every 3 years when we decide to burn an area. All of the nutrients that were in the plants have been returned to the soil because they burned up. And this is a really enriched, prosperous time in the forest for the turtles to be able to live in. And it's a really, really great tool that we use to help make the forest healthier for these animals. Now that I've said all that, this picture in the top left corner, you may be wondering why I put it there. It has a prescribed burn going on in the background, but I really want to draw attention to this pond. We also make ponds for the frogs. So we don't just create habitat by using prescribed burn. We also do large construction projects to dig a hole and fill it up with water so that we can have ponds for the frogs to be able to live in as well. So that's step one. Provide habitat is step one. Step two is monitor. We have to know, are we doing a good job for these animals? Like, are we doing enough? And the best way to know that is to monitor our population. And that can look like a walk in the woods. It's that simple. So everybody from lots of different kinds of government agencies work together to try to help this wildlife mitigation area. So we did a survey last year to try to find out how many burrows we had on the property that we managed. And there were 30 people that walked through the woods for 2 days to find out where are all the burrows. And so we made this treasure map of where all of the burrows are on the property. And these are the real points. This is a real map. And this is really where all of those burrows are at Ward Bayou Wildlife Mitigation Area, which is amazing. And this is real evidence that we're doing a good job for these turtles, because in 2013, we did a survey and there were only 27 of these dots, but 27 active burrows, so the green dots. There were only 27, but this year, last year, we did another one and there were 74. So that's incredible. That means that we have turtles moving to this area because they want to live there. And they like living there, and we're doing a good job managing it for them. And when you help the turtles, you help the frogs. But like I said, the frogs, there were less than 200 of them left in the wild at one point. So that's a really slim chance of them being able to find this location where all these turtles are and make it. So we had to try to do something a little bit extra to help the frogs. We grew frogs from tadpoles at zoos. The zoos grew these tadpoles into adult frogs and then mailed them to us to release into the wild, which is amazing. So if you've ever visited a zoo, they may be helping save endangered species, just like the gopher frog. And they were from all over. They weren't just from the Southeast. So that's amazing. And to this day, we have released over 1,000 gopher frogs at Ward Bayou, which is amazing, because we finally, for the very first time this year, heard a frog calling out at night. One of these gopher frogs. That's 10 years of work. Hundreds of people working together for 10 years to hear one frog call out. That's amazing how much work goes into trying to help these species, but it's worth it because each and every animal is important to its ecosystem and it's worth investing in and saving. So, wow, I hope that you guys have a little bit more knowledge now about what goes into trying to help these animals. And before we start the last section on invasive species, I'm going to do my 5 last native animals that I have here. So this one's a big, tricky one. Okay, this one's really tricky. You have to think about where I am. I'm in the southeastern part of the U.S., okay? So I can hold my breath for 8 minutes. It is a mammal. I will give you that clue. It's a mammal that can hold its breath for 8 minutes.
Frog?
Otter? A bear?
I heard otter. I can't believe you got it. That's amazing. Great job, you guys. Woo! That's awesome.
Didn't even know that one, guys.
That's amazing. So I love this otter so much. It's probably my favorite animal in the book. I have seen otters one time, and it is the coolest story ever. So this summer, I got to go on a boat at night to look for alligators on our lake and count the alligators that live on the lake. There were 40, by the way, 40 alligators. But I got to see otters, and I was more excited about the otters than I was the alligators. But the otters are really cool. They can swim for 7 miles per hour and dive down up to like 60 feet. But of course, the river is not that deep, but they could if they wanted to. They eat lots of different things. So that's really neat. And they're one of the very few animals that can use tools to crack open like mussels and clams and be able to eat the insides, which is really neat.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Okay, so this one's another one that you have to think about where I am, okay? So I like to howl at night. We have these in my
Owl. It's a wolf. It's a wolf.
Good job, Derek.
It's not a wolf. Wait, did he say?
He said a wolf. I thought it was that too.
I don't have wolf.
An owl?
A dog?
Not an owl.
A dog?
It is in the canine family. Whoever said dog.
Mimi, I said dog.
I said coyote.
Coyote! Yay! That's it. It's coyote.
It
So
is a
some people
coyote.
pronounce it coyote. Do you guys pronounce it coyote or coyote?
Coyote.
Okay, good. Because I think that people that say coyote are weird a little bit. Okay, so we've got coyotes here. We have them in my neighborhood, and they keep eating people's cats. And so everybody's getting mad at coyotes right now. I know, but they're just being coyotes. So we've got a pretty big one here. Pretty big coyote.
That is a coyote.
They are a member of the canine family. And they're not originally from here. So this is an interesting one to talk about.
Oh my
They're
goodness.
from where you guys are, aren't they? Like the prairie and the desert. But they made their way across the country to where I live and became a part of the ecosystem. So we call this one not native, but naturalized. So this is a naturalized species because they came to our area and weren't bad. They were actually really good for the area. So I really like coyotes. Every time I see one outside, I get worried, but I mean, they've always left me alone and my cats alone, so we're good.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so these come in pairs, okay? So these two come in pairs. I'm often thought of as Sly and then its cousin, okay? So what is an animal that's often thought of as
Fox.
Sly?
Fox.
Fox. Can you guys guess the two kinds of
Fox.
foxes that we have?
Fox. Because they're
Yeah, I got Fox. That was when you said
We have two
cousin.
kinds of
Can I say something?
Fox.
The gray fox, red fox. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we have two kinds. So
Oh
hold
my
on, I'll
gosh.
grab them. So I have a gray
That is
fox and a red
incredible.
fox. So this is the red. It's red color.
Ooh.
It's really pretty.
Hey.
I've only ever seen one, and it was really exciting. So this is the red fox, and then this is the gray fox. And
That
the
looks like
difference
a
between them
coyote.
is they are cousins, but the gray fox can climb trees. So they live in a different
Like a
environment. than the
cat?
red fox. Kind of, yeah.
Cat. Ooh.
What was your I don't have any other fun facts about these, so if you had a fun fact about it, you could share it.
I would share.
Yeah.
Derek. I straight up just stop. I want to share something.
All right, share,
And
Derek.
also,
Share, Derek.
so what I wanted to say is that actually, if there are many different kinds of foxes. There's a lot of different kinds. Some actually, there's a kind that actually lives in the Antarctic. Oh, that reminds me of
The Arctic fox.
Yeah, the Arctic fox it actually blends in with the snow. It reminds me of the rabbit that also, when it's summer,
The
it's
white
brown
rabbit.
and it's white in winter. But also,
It changes for a color.
don't have any predator on land.
They don't.
Nope.
They don't have any predators here, which is
Nope.
really cool. And I love learning about animals. And there's one other animal here that doesn't have a predator, and it's the last one that's in my box. So I'm really excited to share this one with you guys. It's going to be hard for you to guess it, because the clue isn't very good. But how about, I'll try to pick one off of the back. That way it's more of a clue for you. This is the most common wildcat in North America.
The wildcat.
Bobcat.
Gopher.
Mountain lion.
Lion.
Mountain lion.
A giraffe.
Gopher.
I heard. Did we say bobcat?
I did.
Oh my
Bobcat.
It's a bobcat. We don't have snow here.
said-
This is inaccurate. It never
I
snows.
said
It maybe
bobcat
snows
bird.
like once every 8 years. Okay, this is my bobcat.
Oh, that is a cute bobcat.
It's so big, you guys. Look how big.
That's
Oh
so
my
much.
gosh. I keep going out of the frame. Here we go. Okay, so this is the bobcat, and it's the most rarely seen out of the box. You could live your entire life here and never see one of these animals. And that's what's really incredible. They have multiple dens in their territory, and their territory can be like 5 square miles if it's a female or 30 square miles if it's a male. So there will only be one within that 30 square miles. You're probably never going to find it, which is amazing. But they look just like my cat at home. I have a tabby cat that looks just like this. So maybe he's part bobcat, but he has a nice fluffy tail. They just have this little bobby tail right here. And they don't need a long bushy tail because they mainly hunt on land. So if they had a long bushy tail, it would give them away, is the idea. So that was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was my last animal in the box. And I'm going to finish out with invasives and answer any questions that you guys have. And I have one more surprise for you after invasive species. So we'll have fun with that last surprise as well. So let's go back to invasives. Here we go. So this is a pretty intense part of the presentation because invasive plants and animals are really, really bad. They are bad for the environment, and we need to do everything possible to get rid of them. And sometimes that even means killing animals, which is really sad to think about. But I want you guys to remember, with invasives, people are the reason most of the time why they are here. So for all of the plants that I'm about to show you, they made their way into the water systems because of aquariums. Like, people would dump their aquarium, and then those plants would grow, and then they would get attached to boats, and they would keep moving, etc. And with the other example, I'll tell you about when we get to it. But these are the aquatic plants that I was talking about. You may recognize them from your aquarium if you have an aquarium. So these plants are really bad for the environment because they can grow so quickly. Even just a teeny tiny bit could span over an entire pond or lake in just a matter of weeks. And these are some pictures. This is not land. This is all plants. That's the same for over here and here as well. Hydrilla grows underneath the water. Up, Salvinia is a tiny little plant that grows on top of the water but can shade everything out and not allow anything else to grow. And then water hyacinth, in my opinion, is, I don't know if it's the worst, but it is definitely really bad because it is so big up top. And it is so big underneath. This will basically block out any light making it through the water, and then it makes it difficult for anything to move through the water as well because of those roots that grow underneath the water. And they can be as long as my arm easily. I've pulled water hyacinth out of the river that has roots that are very, very long like that. These plants are bad because, like I said, they shade out any room for anything else to live. But they also, when they die, they can decompose, and they use all of the oxygen out of the water when they decompose. And that makes it difficult for fish to breathe. And in a closed system, which is like a pond or a lake that is really small, that doesn't have any movement in it, it can kill all of the animals inside of that system from not having any air to breathe. So that is not great. We don't want that to happen. So we go to pretty extreme measures to get rid of these. Like I said earlier, I don't know if you remember, but where I work is a river that is 234 miles long. So in the summertime, we have 234 miles of invasive species to get rid of because they grow on they grow in little patches all over the Teton waterway. So we have to get a helicopter to fly the entire length of the waterway and spray these plants to get rid of them. And where the helicopter can't go, we use airboats to go in and spray the areas. So this is a lot of work, obviously, and a lot of money. And another big problem here is misinformation. So a lot of people, like fishermen, see these plants and think that they are good for the fish, that they help give the fish safe places to grow up that are small, that they're food for the fish to eat. But that's just not simply true. It's not true. These are bad plants that block out the natural food that the fish do eat and make it impossible for them to inhabit those areas. So it's really important that we get rid of them. And we're not just fighting the invasive species, we're also fighting misinformation, which is a big hassle here. So next we're going to talk about feral hogs. So this is probably this is always one that I get a lot of questions about. So I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I can while I'm speaking about the feral hogs. And maybe we'll have questions about other stuff too, but if it's all about feral hogs, it's not a big deal. Feral hogs are wild pigs. So feral is another word for wild, and hog is another word for pig. These are not the same pigs that live on farms. We have pigs that live on farms here that don't look like this, that you eat bacon from or whatever. They are not this bad. Feral hogs are extremely bad for the environment. They can kill adult trees by rubbing up against them and taking the bark off. That kills the trees over a long period of time, but it still does kill the trees. They damage environmentally sensitive areas like wetlands. those are really sensitive habitats. And a big group of pigs could come in, roll around in the mud, eat all of the plants, and then leave, and it's completely gone. And it can never go back to the way that it was after that damage. They also hurt a lot of crops. They hurt a lot of other animals. They travel in really large packs because they have lots and lots of babies. So one pig can have a litter and a half per year on average, with 6 to 14 piglets per litter. And the babies that they had earlier in the year will have babies by the end of the year. So that's a lot of pigs born every year. And there's just so many of them, and they're so intelligent that it's really difficult to get rid of them. And it is here, we have open season year round on feral hogs. So if you ever see a feral hog, you can kill it. You have the ability, if you have the ability, you can kill it. Or you can trap them and get rid of them. There's lots of people here that have businesses trapping these hogs and getting rid of them, but it's not very effective strategy to manage this large population that grows exponentially to just kill 1 or 2 at a time. Unfortunately, we have to go to pretty extreme measures to get rid of these pigs. We have traps that sit up in the canopy above where the pigs can see, and we lure them to the area with corn. And then all of the pigs will come from miles and miles around, like a big pack can come through the area and they'll eat all the corn. And it will set off alarms on the wildlife biologist's phone because the cameras picked up motion. So the cameras sometimes pick up raccoons or deer and they won't do anything. But if it is a lot of pigs, they can hit a red button and the trap will fall and catch all of the pigs inside. And it's really important that I look you in the eyes while I say this. So wildlife biology is a complicated thing, right? Because it is a lot of saving animals and saving turtles and saving frogs and planting flowers and helping manage a lot of the animals that we love. And unfortunately, with the rise of invasive species, it is becoming more difficult to do that type of work because we're spending all of our time and money fighting back against bad plants and animals. And it is sad to think about having to kill the pigs in the woods because we brought them here. We brought them to the area for fun because we thought it would be fun to hunt them, and they escaped, and we created this problem for ourselves. So it's really important when we grow up and become adults that we are mindful about the things that we do with wildlife and animals. And if you want to become a wildlife biologist, that you recognize that it is a complicated pros and cons. There's lots of complicated things that happen with these animals. So it is kind of sad. And I will love to answer all of your questions about this because it is a complicated subject. And y'all are obviously extremely intelligent students. So you're going to have really good questions for me.
Derek, would you like to go first? Because I know you've been waiting a long time.
Yeah. Actually, I just wanted to say a few facts about nature because, like, I've been knowing nature for a very long time. I've been watching nature shows, different kinds of nature shows all the time. No, I'm just doing.
All right.
I love that.
Share us one
Also, I
fact,
just
Derek.
wanted to say some facts.
Share us your most important fact. We'll go to our next student, Derek.
Well, some of you probably don't notice, but some spiders will actually eat their web. Not all times, but they'll actually eat their web, clean it out, and add a little extra tips to it, and then spray like a new web again.
That's really cool.
All right, Cesar, would you like to ask your question? Thank you, Derek.
Why in the last picture, why was it all black and white?
That's great. That's a great question because it is nighttime. So the cameras can see through the night. And the picture that they put up is black and white because it's infrared. So it's just picking up like the heat signatures, and we just use black and white to try to show that. That was a really good question. Nobody's ever asked that before.
No, another question. I noticed in like the same picture I said, I was some of them were staring at the screen.
Maybe they saw the light on the camera. I've never thought about that before either, but they could have noticed that there was a light on the camera.
Jayla, will you share your question? Thank you, Cesar.
It's not really a question, it's kind of a comment. Like, I've seen like what you do for your job on a TV show because I watch it with my mom. Like,
Oh, that's cool. I'm not on TV, but that's really cool.
it makes sure, like, they make sure that everyone has a permit for what they're doing and like hunting animals like illegally.
Yeah, it's really important that we try to protect animals for sure.
All right, someone texted me a question, so I'll ask it for them. You said you sprayed the plants on the river. What do you spray them with?
That is such a good question. So it is a special kind of chemical that breaks down in the water. So you have to spray it directly onto the plant or else it does not work. But luckily those plants grow in such condensed mats that it's very easy to get a lot of them all in the same area. But did you notice one of them grows underneath the water? So the spray doesn't work on that one. So we don't have any way to fight that one at all, which is a new challenge. We need someone to come up with some ideas for us.
All right. Alan, will you ask your question?
How long have you been a park ranger?
I've been a park ranger for 2.5 years, and I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Fernanda?
What's it called again? The turtle that has the type of
Oh, an alligator snapping turtle.
Oh, what is actually the bug connected to the tongue of the turtle?
Yeah, their tongue is just shaped like that. It's shaped like a worm, which is so weird.
Okay, because I thought because I once read a book that the animal actually gets in your tongue, then it starts beating.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. There is a parasite that goes into the mouth of its host and it eats some of the food, but it lets a lot of the food go because it needs the host to live, but it will eat like part of it. I think it happens to fish, like bass fish, and I've seen it before and it is terrifying. It's so scary looking.
I did not like the book.
Alex,
Yeah, me neither.
your question?
What do you have to do for your job as a park ranger?
That's such a good question. Okay, so park rangers across the country have different jobs. So in Nevada, you have park rangers. They have a completely different job from me because you live in a completely different area. But there's 3 things that we do that pretty much summarize what every single park ranger does. So we do 3 things. We protect people from people. So in the parks, people can get mad at each other, and we're there to just kind of like bring the fuses down a little bit, make sure everybody's happy and good. We protect nature from people because people will leave their trash behind, hurt trees, etc. And that takes on different flavors depending on where you are in the world. And then the third thing that we do is we protect people from nature because nature will come back to get you every so often. And here that takes the shape of tornadoes, a lot of floods. We have a lot of people that hit logs when they're driving their boats. So, and we have alligators that can attack people. They usually just leave themselves alone. It's usually the people that try to attack nature or get nature to move that are the ones that end up getting hurt by nature. So, but those are the 3 things that we pretty much all do.
All right, Daniel, will you ask yours?
If the wind is blowing like 60 miles an hour, can it knock down trees?
It can. And we have tornadoes that come through that blow wind really, really fast and can knock down trees. So every year when I have a campground that I drive through like 3 or 4 times a year and check to see if there are any dead trees or dead limbs on the trees, and that way we can cut them down and they won't fall off if the wind gets really high.
Do you have time for one more?
Oh yeah.
Okay, Derek, will you share?
So actually, I was going to do free, but I lost one of them. And so, what I wanted to share is that I really want to live in nature, but my mom doesn't have enough money to live in nature. And my dad doesn't want to live in nature. He wants to live in the city.
You should read The Salamander Room. I feel like that would be your favorite book. Check that out from your library.
Hey, also, by the way, do you know that a tornado and a hurricane are actually very similar? Because when you think of a hurricane, some people think, oh, it's a big bowl of water spinning around instead of air. But really, it's air and water. So actually, they're very similar because a tornado is just air. When a tornado passes water, it collects water, turning it into a hurricane, making it more powerful. And if it gets too far away from the water, it'll actually fall down, and it can flood cities and do a lot of damage to nature if it gets in nature.
Yeah, we have a lot of hurricanes that hit the coast from where I live. We've had a lot of hurricanes this year. But the way that the hurricanes travel when they hit land, a hurricane will hit the Gulf Coast and then it will throw tornadoes at us where we live. So that's a really big problem here. They're definitely connected. So I have my surprise for you guys because you asked amazing questions. Y'all have paid attention so well. I am so impressed with you as a class. You definitely deserve to see my special surprise. So I'm really excited to share my last native animal. She has her own box because she's alive. It is my friend, Myrtle the turtle. Of course, it's a turtle, you guys. I talked about turtles almost every section. So this is Myrtle. She's a freshwater turtle. She is one of those sliders that we talked about at the very beginning of the presentation. This is the most common type of turtle here. And even though it's the most common type of turtle, Myrtle is definitely special and amazing. She loves to swim. She loves to eat. She's a really good eater, and she loves to get her back scratched. And I think that we should do a virtual back scratch. I think that all of you guys would be perfect for that. If everyone could take your fingernails and give your fingernails a good scratch, your fingernails are made out of the same stuff as Myrtle's shell, keratin. And that's amazing that we have like mini turtle shells on our fingers. So if you guys all scratch your fingernails, I'll give her a really good scratch from all of you. And she might try to swim for us. Yay! She loves swimming and showing off for students. So thanks so much for giving her a really good back scratch, you guys. She loves that a lot. Right. Awesome. Well, I hope that you enjoyed everything in this presentation and you learned a lot. I really enjoyed being around all of you today, and Myrtle definitely did too. I hope that you all want to grow up and be park rangers and see lots of native animals in Nevada and care about the endangered animals where you live and learn to identify and get rid of invasives where you live as well.
All right, everyone, wave to Ranger Randy. Say thank you. I'm going to have you guys stay on because I have about 2 minutes to share with you about today. Thank you so much, Ranger.
Thank you. I want to be a park ranger.
Our neighbors are going to be pissed.
Bye.
All right. So you guys did